Luke Cage is a very newly buffed champ. I don't remember exactly when he was buffed, but it feels like it's been pretty recently. And after that happened, he got thrown into the Titan Crystal, and a lot of people were upset about that. Well, I pulled him twice, and I have not been upset at all, because I really like this character. I think he does a lot of cool things. He shuts down so many pesky mystics out there. There's not that many that he really can't take, and it feels really good because of that. Having the Sig ability is really nice for some scenarios where maybe you want to push the opponent red and then you can just tank an SP3, or you just mess up in Battlegrounds a bit and then you save a bunch of health points. So having the Sig is very nice. Definitely not needed or anything, but it's very cool. And he's a pretty good Battlegrounds champion. You ideally want to use him against Mystics, but I'll have a couple fights against non-Mystics too. And of course we're going to have some Battlegrounds fights, obviously. But he's not like the speediest champion out there, because the science class is broken for Battlegrounds. So, I mean, I know everyone likes to say, well, if you can't be as fast as like the top 4 science characters, then you're just bad. And sure, whatever. That's not really true though, because Luke, while he still isn't the fastest character out there, he puts in a lot of work and can help your account out in many different ways. And we're going to get into those many different ways here in this video, of course, because this is going to be a large Luke showcase, and I'm really excited to show you guys what I have done with this guy. We're going to start in Realm of Legends, where I typically start my showcase videos, and just see a basic rotation of how I like to play Luke Cage. And if you don't know, he's going to place a lot of exhaustions on his light attacks, and the more debuffs you have on the opponent, the more damage you have, so you want to be placing as many of those exhaustions as possible. And then usually once I get above 1 bar of power, I like to throw my heavy attack, which is going to place a Debilitate, and the Debilitate makes my debuffs last longer. So basically, I'm going to be placing a lot more debuffs now, and they're going to last longer if I have the Debilitate active. I don't remember exactly how potent it is, but it is nice to have for sure. And then once the concussion from your SP2 is active, you kind of just want to spam SP1s until they die, unless you really need that concussion for ability accuracy reduction, hence you should definitely go back for another SP2. So that's just kind of the basic way to play Luke. There's obviously a lot of different scenarios where you might want to do something differently, because you might need that concussion active, or you don't want the concussion active, but usually you do want to go SP2 first into an SP1 later. So we're going to go against this Juggernaut next, and this is a interesting showcase of Luke's concussion, because Juggernaut obviously goes unstoppable every time that he activates a special attack. So if we can get those concussions active, reduce his ability accuracy and such, then obviously that's not going to be a big problem anymore. And against Mystics, Luke Cage can inflict 2 concussions, each of them being 75% of potency. And against non-science champions, he can only inflict 1, but that's still fine, because it's still carrying a lot. And it is, of course, worth mentioning that concussions reduce all ability accuracy, not just defensive and not just offensive. It is both of them. So that's why Juggernaut's Unstoppable is getting shut down, because we're reducing his offensive ability accuracy along with his defensive ability accuracy, which you don't really see the defensive ability accuracy reduction coming into play, because he doesn't really have any defensive abilities, but still, that is going to be for both of them, and it's just something that is worth mentioning. So we did kill that Juggernaut in under a minute, which is definitely pretty nice. And then we're going to move on to Battlegrounds fights, and we're going to start the video against this Sasquatch, this rank 3 Sasquatch, and we're only rank 2, so we are punching up in this fight, and we're going to see how fast he can take him down. If you didn't know, Sasquatch has a clause in his kit that makes it to where he does not gain rage stacks when he has an exhaustion on him. So that just means that Luke Cage is legitimately maybe the best Sasquatch counter in the entire game, because we can just place those exhaustions and then he doesn't gain any of his damage resist, his crit resist, or anything like that. He is just shut down. He's never going to go into Wrath, he's just never going to do anything, because once you can shut off his rage stacks, he doesn't really do anything at all. So we're just going to go for an SP1 here, get the physical burst damage, and then we're going to go for a relic, and this guy is just dead. So that was a 44-second fight, punching up. That's absolutely insane. Like, the biggest health pool in the game, we were punching up, and we still killed him in 44 seconds. So another punching up fight here is going to be against this rank 3 Dust, and Dust is a pretty difficult defender. She has a lot of immunities that takes a lot of like common options out of the question for her, like Nimrod or something. I tried to dex her SB1. I know I'm not supposed to, I just messed up, but it's all good. So here I'm going to try to get an intercept, and there I finally got it. Luke Cage's light attacks are really long reaching, so you can get some really nice intercepts out of them. He's a character I really like intercepting with. And here I'm going to place a concussion, which is going to be pretty nice. And then we're just going to do the regular Luke Cage things and try to place a lot more exhaustions and then get this dust out of here. So I'm going to be trying to go for a heavy attack as soon as I can. And I'm going to push her to another SP2. And a funny thing that Luke Cage does is he places a Sunder. And Sunder, if you didn't know, reduces crit resistance to 0. And Dust has the 6th highest crit resist in the entire game, so that is very, very useful for this fight. And there we go, 64-second Dust fight punching up. That's not too bad at all, if I say so. So now we are going to fight a Dr. Doom, rank 5 ascended Dr. Doom, of course, and Doom, another champion with a lot of crit resist, so that Sunder is going to come into play, of course. And you can also shut down Doom's aura by placing the concussion, obviously, which is really cool. So once we get to an SB2, Doom is basically shut down, which is just a common theme of Luke versus a lot of Mystic defenders. He just kind of shuts down their big problematic moments. And in Doom's case, that is going to be the Aura of Hazarath usually. So that, along with him having crazy base stats and base armor and such. But once we can get the Sunder active, his crit resist is completely gone. So that means his armor is negated a little bit, and it's a really good time there. But we're actually going to kill him before we can even get the Sunder up. So it didn't really matter, because that's a 45-second Doom fight. So there we go. Next up, we're going to move on to a Longshot, and Longshot isn't like the craziest defender out there. He's not the one that's like really commonly placed, but he does trip people up for sure sometimes. And I do really like Luke Cage for this guy. However, the concussions don't really make a big deal for Longshot, because he increases his own ability accuracy by like 300% or something, so the concussions don't matter too much. But Luke Cage is just going to kill him before there's a really big issue. So we just bait SP1s, and then I didn't mean to parry there, but it's all good. We bait SP1s, and just look how much health he's already lost. He's below 34% health, and I haven't even dropped the SP2 yet. So I got hit there, but again, like, the Sig ability does save you points in BGs sometimes. It is really nice. And then we're going to get an intercept there, and then he's dead. So that was all before we even dropped the SP1 cycle and stuff. 41-second fight, so definitely pretty nice. And now we're going to fight Kindred. I swear Luke Cage is much better for Kindred than I actually show him to be, because I fight Kindred like 3 times in this video, and I've never gotten it perfectly. I've seen so many people fight Kindred way better than I do with Luke Cage. Part of it's just me completely forgetting about the stupid falter node, because I got caught with that so many times. I don't know why, I just completely disregarded it. So here, I need to build up some more exhaustions to place a double concussion, but I ended up not going for enough. I probably should have ramped up. I think you need 5 to place 2 concussions, and I didn't really get the 5 of them. But yeah, it's okay. Basically, what you want to do is use the concussions to shut down Kindred's root at the end of the fight. However, we reduced his ability accuracy by 75%, and he's still going to trigger the root off the 25%, so I lost some health there, but it wasn't too bad. It also should have been like a 44-second fight. Like, I've seen that happen before, so yeah. Let me see. What is this? Oh wow, I got a notification on my phone about someone calling Luke Cage an ass champ on the Bullseye video I just released. Again, where I'm using Luke Cage against Bullseye. Oh, that's crazy. I'll just have to reply with them a link to this video as soon as it publics. That's gonna be cool. In all seriousness, yeah, Bullseye is not something you really want to be using Luke Cage for too often. It works this meta because of the True Strike, I also can see it potentially working in a meta where you don't have the True Strike because of the fact he's bleed immune. And that's really like the only reason. Like, you can definitely use a bunch of bleed immunes against Bullseye. Like, I use MCoC versus Bullseye sometimes. I don't really know if this fight would work. It would be something worth experimenting when the meta shifts. So I would like to try Luke versus Bullseye when I don't have the True Strike to rely on, and see how it goes. It would be definitely an interesting experiment. I don't have like very high hopes for it, but it could work. We'll see. Alright, next up we're going to fight MCoC on Node 43 in Alliance War. So we got a lot of Alliance War fights coming up, and let's just start with this MCoC here. This is another big example of Luke Cage's concussions just being the absolute GOAT. Like, we're going to completely shut off Hazard Shift once we drop an SP2. Like, once an SP2 is thrown, there are going to be no more Hazard Shift debuffs for the rest of the fight. All I got to do is get to an SP2, and then have 5 exhaustions active before I drop it. And I'm going to use a Power Start 1 to get there faster, obviously. It's a war setting, so I want to be playing as safe as possible. So I'm going to drop a heavy attack for the Debilitate, and I'm going to wait a bit for the Hazard Shift to switch to Shock, because I have an Odin pre-fight here. I've seen this done without the Odin pre-fight. It's definitely possible. It's just we want to be as safe as possible when planning this war because it's in season and stuff, so it really matters. But anyway, there was an SP2. We had the power backs active. You don't need power backs. It's just nice in case I felt like I needed to cycle SP2s, which I didn't really need to do, but I also dropped an SP1 here for extra damage, or not here. It's going to come sooner or later. I'm going to drop an SP1 for extra damage. So you will notice that MCoC is gaining hatred charges, but what's going to happen is that when he actually goes enraged, it's not going to matter because he's not going to get unstoppable, he's not going to go unblockable, or does he do something else when he enters rage? I think he like gains an energy protection when he throws an SP1 or something, but none of that's going to happen as long as we have the concussions active. So we're going to drop another SP2 here in a moment. That's not going to finish the job, but that's okay because he's going to enter his hatred and it's not going to matter because Unstoppable got shut off. So that went basically as good as it could have gone, and that MCoC is dead. Next up, we're going to move on to another Kindred, and another Kindred that I don't really play the best against. But this is on Node 4, so it has a bunch of fatigues. And the fatigues are definitely going to make Luke Cage's damage much worse here, along with the fact that the fatigues are fueling inequity. So this isn't like the fastest fight out there, but it is going to go pretty well. And I think I shut Kindred off pretty well in this fight. We'll see how it goes. But when I did my original Luke Cage video with like the Titan Crystal and everything, I showed like the proper way to fight Luke with Kindred, or fight Kindred with Luke. So if you really want to know how to perfectly do that matchup, you can go watch that video. But it's pretty simple. I'm just making it a lot harder than it needs to be, honestly. So yeah, and also the concussions are gonna stop the fatigues from actually proccing once I get them active, so I could just technically let them all fall off and then I wouldn't get any more while the concussions are active. I just didn't do that because I didn't think about it for some reason. So we're just going to take this fight slow and steady, and I might go for an SP1, but basically I just need to keep those SP2 concussions active and then the fight's basically over. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and yeah, I did go for an SP1 there, which might not have been the best call, but it's all good. We just need to get to an SP2, and then it's going to be all fine. So he throws an SP1 here. We're going to get another one of the pauses, and then I go for an SP2. We have a bunch of exhaustions up, so we can Suma some of them to place another concussion, which is cool. But here he drops his SP2, doesn't really matter. We get the counter, get another pause, and yeah, you're going to see that there is literally no root. So actually I did play it right. We had the concussions active during the root phase, and yeah, the root just never procced. So there we go. That's all I had to do. And I just wish I played it that well in PGs, but it's all good. Next up, we're going to fight an Ebony Maw on node 15, I think. And another example of Luke's concussion working, we're just going to completely shut off Ebony Maw's Falter and such. So that's gonna be really cool. Also, someone else pointed out to me that I was worried in the original time I took this fight that if I did a guaranteed crit against Maw that I would miss, but yeah, I was reminded that Science Champions can crit Maw, and it's just fine, so yeah, that one ended up being alright. There I went for a useless heavy that I wouldn't have attempted if this was in Season War, but it was off-season, so why not go for it. And here I'm going to drop the SP2, I have 5 concussions, so I get 5 exhaustions, so I get 2 concussions, and yeah, there's no falter, look at that. I can also just dex the SP2, because if I happen to misdex it, he's not going to be able to degen me, and I'm going to go indestructible, so that's a really nice benefit right there. And here we're going to go for an SP1. You can even see aggression prowess is shut off, there's literally nothing in this fight that is threatening anymore. So I'm going to lose my concussions, which I probably should have thrown an SP2 instead of an SP1, because then I would have actually had them, but it's all good because we throw a massive heavy attack to prevent Maw from gaining any more charges for a couple seconds, and then we drop an SP1. The burst damage is just going to finish him off. So next up we're going to fight Rintra on node 26. This is just a path-splitting placement, but you're going to get to see at least how well Luke Cage handles Rintra, because, once again, he shuts down the defender. What do you know? So we're going to go do an SP2, we're going to place some concussions. What's going to happen? He can't do anything, because that's just how Luke Cage works. That is why this guy is so good, because he just makes Mystic defenders an absolute joke, because they can't do anything. And yeah, Titania can kill them fast, but she's not going to be shutting them down as effectively as Luke Cage is shutting them down. So I'm going to drop an SP2 in a second, and I should have thrown it when I had the uptime on the Debilitate. I didn't, but it's not a big deal. We still get some long concussions and such, and then I just need to place 2 more exhaustions, and then I'm going to have a Sunder, and the Sunder, of course, is just going to make it to where I can crit the cow much more often, because his crit resist will be completely gone, and the Sunder is indefinite. It only goes away if I lose the +6 exhaustions, so it's basically always there when I can just play aggressive like I am. And I'm going to go for a heavy attack for another Debilitate, throw an SP1, and then we stun him again, and 20k medium, and yeah, then he's just dead, just like that. So there we go. A cow completely shut down, didn't ever have to worry about dropping some heavy attacks once the concussions were active, because he wasn't ever going to gain any more mystical charges. So next up, we are going to fight a Kindred again on Hazard Shift this time. And we have Odin pre-fights just to, again, make the initial build a little bit easier. And also, I don't have a Power Start 1 like I did for the MCoC because of the fact that this is off-season war, so I wasn't going to use a Power Start 1 when I need to save those for in-season. So basically, Luke is bleed immune, so we cover that part, and now that we have Odin, we are going to be shock immune, so that covers that part. And I wouldn't even say I need this when it's in-season war, because I just wait out the shock phase, and then once the bleed phase is active, I just hit him with a Power Start 1 boost, go for an SP2, and then he is going to have the 2 concussions, and then Hazard Shift won't matter anymore. So obviously Conflictor is on this fight, but the exhaustions are going to reduce the power you gain from it a little bit, and that's assuming I can actually keep a bunch of them active, which I not seem to be able to do, but it's going to be fine. I'm pretty sure this Kindred did not go very cleanly, but it's going to be fine. We're going to get the solo anyway. And at this point, yeah, you saw he purified an exhaustion, but he didn't gain nearly as much power as he normally would gain, because of, you know, the exhaustion's just controlling the ability power rate. So I am degenning here, but it's okay. We're just going to back off, and I only get 1 concussion active because I didn't have the exact amount of exhaustions that I needed, but it's okay. I'm taking a lot of damage here just because I didn't line the fight up properly. It's something that definitely, one thing I think Luke Cage is sometimes hard at is lining the fight up properly with how you need your exhaustions, and that's just mainly because of Conflictor being there. And if I had like a Power Start 1 and I could have, you know, had a little bit of a better setup, it wouldn't have been that big a deal. But yeah, this this isn't like a very fast fight. Inequity from the shocks is there too. I also just, again, didn't line everything up as perfectly as I would have liked, but here we're just going to try to build to an SP2, and once we get there, he's gonna die, but yeah, we ended up pushing him to the root too early, but it didn't matter because we had a special anyway, so it's all good. And yeah, next up, we are going to move on to where exactly? What am I doing? We're going to move to Gauntlet Doom. That's what we're doing. And this fight is interesting. I wouldn't say he's like a great counter for this guy on this specific node setup, but he works, so that was pretty cool. And basically, I was just like, can I shut off the size matters node? And it turns out I can't. But what I can shut off is micro reflect, which is the one that makes my glance deal damage reflect back to me. So basically, I'm just going to go for an SP2. We have 5 concussions, and I want to drop it. And I am going to get hit there because I dropped it in the aura like an idiot, but it's okay. We have the 2 concussions up, so while he still can glance a little bit, he is not going to be doing any reflect damage while I have those concussions active. So here I'm going to dex the SP2, and I'm probably going to go for another SP2 of my own. I need to go for a debilitate, which I'm going to place right there, and that's just going to make my next set of concussions last a lot longer, which is going to be very nice, so where I don't have to worry about not having them at some points. And there was a small frame where my concussion fell off, so I took like 30% of my health from the reflect, because again, ideally you throw the SP2 with the debilitate active, which I just didn't do for some reason. So then I get hit, but that's okay, because I think that's like the last mistake I make in this fight. And here we go for a debilitate. 42k heavy attack is definitely very nice, and we're gonna drop an SP2, and it's gonna do a nice crit, and then no more crits, but that's okay. We are gonna get a Sunder back up in just a moment. I need to place one more exhaustion, and then I'll have the 6th that I need. And here I go for a nice intercept, and then we go for an SP1, do a bunch of burst damage, and here I'm like, okay, he's dead. I can just stun lock him at this point. There he probably could have like actually hit me because I was a little slow, but it's okay. We're gonna go for another SP1, and then we double medium, and then no, I don't double medium. I just go for another SP1, and then he is dead right there with a 22k medium. So it was a little bit rough, but it worked, so I'll take it. And next up, we're gonna fight another fight that is like, it's kind of weird using Luke Cage for this fight, but it also works. So this is gonna be Eternity of Pain Dormammu, and what would be nice in this fight is if I could just drop an SP2, place concussions, and what that would do is completely shut off the stun immune node. It would completely shut off Footloose, and it would completely shut off getting degens on myself, and literally everything. But the problem is the fact that it shuts off literally everything is that I'm not gaining any placebo by hitting Dormammu, because the ability accuracy is tied to him and not me. So if I went for a concussion, I wouldn't be gaining any placebo on myself, and this node has buffed up, so I need at least 3 buffs to deal damage, so it wouldn't work. So basically, I just kind of had to spam SP1s, which is fine because we do nice burst damage on the SP1s, and obviously it's a knockdown to place the degens on Dormammu, which is kind of the main goal of the fight, is to place the degens on Dormammu. So, yeah, I just need to go for a bunch of SP1s in this fight, and I got hit there, but Indestructible is so good, so it doesn't matter, and there, we don't do any damage because I don't have any buffs on me, which, yeah, you can see why I need to not go for an SP2, because I need buffs on me, and the concussions would just ruin that. So we just keep throwing SP1s, knocking them down to place more degens, and also just doing the burst damage, and ideally, you know, placing some exhaustions on my light attacks on the way there. So, and at this point, Dormammu is going down for sure, and I don't know why I threw a light attack. I had the spacing, I didn't need to, so that was stupid, but it's all good. We place another degen, and he's at SP2, I go for a heavy attack, another degen, and then I just miss a parry, and now he's at SP3, and I'm like, oh, that's Awesome. I didn't mean for that to happen. And unfortunately, my indestructible is on cooldown, so I do have to take the damage. But we also have a bunch of inequity to make it to where it's not going to kill me. I just have to be in the corner with the Footloose active, so just waiting a little bit, and now I just dropped the SP1, and he dies. So I've done that fight cleaner. I just didn't record it for some reason, and I also can't show you how long the fight took because I got this wonderful symbol. So anyway, last up, I am actually going to stop talking in a moment, but the last fights we're going to show is in the EQ, because I know some people like EQ content, so if you want to see Luke Cage doing EQ content, well, here it is. And yeah, Luke Cage, very cool champ. I really enjoy playing him. I think he's very nice for Battlegrounds against all the pesky mystics out there. There are very few that I think he's bad at, if any. He just really shuts them down with that SP2 concussion, basically removing any threat of the fight. So he's going to be a very nice champ for a bunch of different metas, I'm sure. And I'm just very satisfied that I took this guy to rank 2 and pulled him twice from a Titan Crystal, because I know a lot of people would be upset about that. And I can get it because of how many good, like, insane broken OP champs are in the Titan Crystal. And he's not a broken OP champ. He just clearly isn't, and I'm not going to deny that. But he's a very, very good champ, and one that I'm very happy to have on my roster. So with that being said, I'm going to let the last few fights play out, and hope you enjoyed watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.